Hi guys. So, hello. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're all holding up well. If you are, tell us. If you're not, tell us. We're curious. This is some unprecedented stuff. We'll start out running back to launching the Subversive fitness site 2 weeks ago. It's going great. Some of you are already on there participating and interacting. Thank you so much. We had a couple of really minor technical things and we're getting those handled. And now we're basically just figuring out how to slowly continue to focus group people through. We don't want 500 people at once. We want 20, 30, 40 people, and then we want to expand off of them. The way that this Subversive fitness platform is built, and the reason we consider it remote development and not simply just online training or whatever, is that there's a barrier to entry, and very similar to most of the things that we do, it's effort and attention to detail. So in phase 1 of the Subversive fitness platform, you will run through and videotape yourself performing movements that run through the standard movement patterns. Really great function: pull-up, push-up, squat, other level changes, things like that. And realistically, we're just going to help adjust little things until they improve. And then something else that we've been finding a lot of luck with is translating our in-person scaling abilities digitally. I've had a lot of practice at that because we've practiced and trained a lot of people remotely, and it really just ends up being emails and text messages and things like that, an occasional call, and it's really pretty shocking what can get handled with effective, clear language. And so Subversive Fitness site is a byproduct of some of that experience as well, and it's going great. Thank you. If you're not on there, it's subversivefitness.com, and it's our remote development resource. So once the phase 1 has been moved through and we've helped adjust and improve things, then the subsequent phases all contain different training options. Our primary program will be in there, so we can help you work through that. And then secondary programs, more accessory programs that specialize in, a bunch of different stuff. Just some unique things that we have found benefit in and wanted to share with you, past, above and beyond what we already share, which is considerable. So that's the update on that. If you have questions about the Subversive fitness site, also, you can run that through us here. You can email us off the primary site. You can email us off that training site as well, of course. We moved convergence to June 27, 28. All participants have been noted, and we're very glad that we've heard from many of them that they can still come. There will be a couple that can't, just based on the fact the world's upside down. But we're excited to be able to have an event. Almost everything has gotten canceled in all realms, and this is important to us. So we're gonna make sure that it's the best version of convergence we could possibly put on. We'll be premiering Don't Stand in Line. The first 5 episodes have been screened. The 6th episode is the final one that we're waiting to see. And Don't Stand in Line is a documentary made by my friend Anthony Mareshi. Some of you may know of him from hardcore or video production or any number of different things. He's a talented dude, but he picked a handful of people and has done this really kind of, it's just a fascinating questions documentary on people that kind of came up the hard way, or just really chose an unconventional path and have stayed with it long enough to see it turn into something. Really excited about that as well. One question that came in before I put the actual question box up that we can run into, and then if any of you have questions, we can get to those first, and then we'll run off the little box on the bottom. Nothing yet. So someone asked, they were new to training, what are our 3 recommendations? That's a gigantic question. I don't know exactly what they meant, but my main 3 recommendations for anyone who's fortunate enough to be getting into training right now is find details that have been clearly and cleanly proven on people that either share your goals, look like you, they have a body type like you, but a strength or conditioning level that is significantly different than yours, and find out how those dots got connected. It doesn't have to be us. If they got connected, great, another fucking way, then go, good. But make sure they're actually getting connected. One thing that we've been seeing lately, and we mentioned it a little bit in a post this week, is a lot of people guessing right now, and we understand. I mean, I guess guessing right now is culturally accepted, since every government in the fucking world is doing it at the same time. Us doing it, I guess, is less impactful than that. But the better than nothing notion is something we get all the time. People toss that at us often. Well, isn't anything better than nothing? Yeah, it sure is. Anything is better than nothing. If you are sedentary, moving is better than nothing. The end. It really shakes out to how you approach the not nothing. Tells a really clear story, especially in this day and age when there is a lot of information out there for free that's great. Some people go the other direction. If they didn't pay for it, they don't think it's good. We've definitely fallen into that category with the Public Assistance Project. But how that nothing is handled is really important. And I say nothing in quotes. Nothing is nothing. If you're doing something and you're improving at it, then it is something. And that is important, and it's noteworthy. There is always a better, not nothing. And that's one thing that we've been seeing a lot of lately. And we encourage people to point their friends and their training partners and anyone that's curious right now about how to feel a little more confident in a really ridiculous time like this. Physical capability and knowing your capacities is one way to make sure you feel at least as confident as you can. And a bunch of stupid gimmick training is definitely not going to get anyone there. So to that question of someone new to training, 3 recommendations. Pay attention to details, big one. Be patient, big one. Nothing happens overnight. Even really, really talented folks, when they start training and they do something really smart, certain things will adjust quick, and it's great to watch. Other things won't. Don't expect everything to move at the same pace. And my 3rd recommendation would be sensible but durable. If you are a giant baby, you are never going to get strong. That being said, if every time you go in, you wrap your wrists and you fucking buckle your neck and you strap your belt on and you chalk yourself up and you try and rip the heaviest weight in the room off the ground, well, you're going to get hurt and you're never really going to get strong. So there's that line in the middle between safety and self-destruction, and that's what we need to walk to get stronger forever. So the recommendations to the new people are details, patience, durability. Let's look at a couple of questions. And if anyone has any more, you're welcome to put them on. Thank you very much. I will go look. I would love to see some Chinese boxing. Okay, questions. Sorry about that. From Dave. Dave's on the new site. Hi, Dave. Rest, how often per week? Effective rest day routine. Yeah, active rest is definitely what we recommend, pursue, perform. Mobility to an extent. If you don't need it, don't overdo it. The goal is not to turn you into something that you don't need to be. There's a limit to functional range, and that's important to note. Some people move way past those functional ranges beautifully, and if they've done that really, really well, and then they've insulated it with strength, then it's an extremely powerful thing to have. But the goal should not be to get super, super bendy. So when it comes to actual rest, again, it's going to be very personal. 1 day mandatory. Even with our program, we write a 6-day program so that people can omit something if they don't have any of the equipment. if there's a pattern that's been challenged for them or is in the midst of an injury, something like that. That's a day they can omit. So the program is written 6 days, not in order to perform 6 days, but so there's something for everyone and you can make sure to get everything you need. So don't think that 6 days means train at 6. It means train it however many you need to, however many you can. At least 1 day off, usually 2, and 3 if you need it. One thing we don't recommend though is doing all your training and then doing all your resting. So if you're gonna train 4 days, don't train Monday through Thursday and then sit the fuck around for 72 hours and then expect to perform the same on that Monday. Unless there's a real reason for that. We've never found that to be the ideal scheme, work rest schemes. So rest often enough to stay moving and healthy and capable. If you're not resting enough, it'll tell you. Overtraining, I mean, unless you are really going for it, it's mostly a myth with a lot of people. What they're doing is under resting, and what they're often also doing is under eating. So hope that helps. If that's not specific enough, then just get at me afterwards. Hi, Neen. Subversive. Thank you. Great. Thank you very much. Yeah, the Subversive Fitness site has been a 10-year work in progress, maybe more. We never wanted to. Not that we didn't want to, but we didn't see a path for us with online program. It just wasn't my cup of tea. Most of them were shiesty. Almost all of them were plug and play with some just very minor tweaks. And so it took a while to figure out the framework that would make it very much like what we do here. Nothing can shot for shot replace training somewhere in person, of course, but this is going to be very good, and it's going to produce some really excellent movers, and that's really important. Baseline strength is easy. Even people that are great at that and really strong will admit that. There are so many phenomenal templates that if you follow them, you will get stronger at the end. Increasing your overall physical skill set, increasing your capacity in a bunch of different arenas, and also just becoming a really expert mover are not easy. And we applaud anyone that takes that path. It is not the easiest path. Thank you. Kelly Starrett. Yeah, Kelly Starrett's a genius. He's a little much sometimes for certain people, but I mean, his information is second to none. Even if you just go back to the free stuff that he gave out years and years ago. I mean, when that stuff came out, he was putting out those mobility YouTube videos. They were so phenomenal, and the reason that they were and are is because they very specifically address movement patterns. They very specifically address extremely common faults and flaws, and their success rate is 100%. If you have those things and you apply those details, that position improves. It's really great. That being said, and I just got that a minute ago, so we don't need to go back to it, but don't overdo mobility any more than you overdo anything else. Sitting around stretching for 16 hours, if you don't need the mobility and you already move well in those positions is a waste of time. It's actually doing more harm than good. Injury question. What training injuries? So the training injuries question is shorter. In actual training, I haven't gotten a ton of injuries. I dislocated my shoulder many years ago, landing from being thrown. I've hit my head a couple of times. I've tore my labrum training, but the training injuries aren't the injury injuries. I rode BMX my entire life, trained and competed in Muay Thai and grappling. All of it accumulated. My body kind of gave up for a while, and so we've obviously moved past all those because I can move okay now, but all of it was a real uphill battle. I had 2 spine surgeries, both went somewhat poorly, and The second one left my left big toe dysfunctional, left pain in my left leg that stayed around for 7-8 years, still there, but much less. And I basically had to retrain that entire left side to stay balanced with the right hand side. So lots of really strange stuff that if the glass were half full, it's that it taught me just an enormous, almost unfathomable amount about movement, detailing movement, recovering movement, accessorizing movement, and movement patterns. So I've been banged up a lot. We are where we are, and it's really helped me learn how to train people extremely well. Kettlebell windmill is in the curriculum. I've always been curious why the kettlebell bent press doesn't seem to be. Yeah. So, and it's a good question, Todd. We just do the windmill from the top of the push press. If people want to add a bent press to it, great. I've seen even people that are really, really good movers do really bad bent presses. And so for a group training curriculum, it's just not an appropriate one for us. But singularly, we've all practiced it, we enjoy it. It's just not something that we would ever put on a group training. Good question, fun one. Thank you. Have I met Jim Wendler in person? No, I haven't. I think there's a follow-up question to this. Yeah, Jim Wendler has had an impact on my training philosophy. I'll go along with that. He's a really, really smart dude that has a very formulaic, excellent way of doing things. He's a clear speaker, and I love his programs, and I think he's a cool dude. No, we've never met. I would be thrilled to meet him. I know he has a mace. He bought one a couple of years ago, and I remember being really excited about that. I sent him a note because I also probably put a bunch of stickers and stuff in there, and he sent the note back, and he sent a note back and said that he had cut it with a razor and taken everything apart. Maybe he just didn't want the stickers. Either way. Thanks, Todd. So you're calling my bluff? You're trying to trick me? Okay. I remember that. Do I think the world has outgrown the idea of a president? Man, I really try and stay pretty not political with this stuff. I don't fucking care. I don't think that any government is ever going to run a country with an appropriate balance of power and care. So basically, I support what I support. I do what I do. I try and keep things simple. And one thing that I've had to focus on in order for this to become anything, because there's not enough time in the hour to get into why this shouldn't have ever worked. But it's got to be a singular focus on this type of mission. This mission isn't so singular that it's training people at all costs in our way. It's just this subversionist type of mindset. It's just this subversion of what people are used to, so much so that they've let it stop their critical thinking. And that if the mission had a bigger overall goal than just executing excellent training, it would be just to get people to think about something that may not have been fully formed yet, or something that they had just seen but never really latched onto. So when it comes to what I think about world leadership, I don't. Since I was young, the people that I've heard music from, the people that I looked up to in BMX, a lot of my friends that were around me at that time, they never trusted anything like that, and they were very right-minded in that, and I believe, and so that type of educated mistrust has been growing in me for 30 years. So of course, there's no way that anyone could have there's no predicted how this went down, but the idea of the government leaving us for dead and the local governments infighting with the national governments fucking surprised me with something. There's no way that much ego and that much money could be in one tunnel and not want to destroy each other. So I don't care about any of that. Thank you, Meg. We enjoy it every day. Thank you very much. How do I feel the Wolf Brigade style of training fits for competition grappling? I think it's the best strength and conditioning program in the world for fight sports, because it was engineered with martial pattern mindset. It was engineered with a martial mindset. The strength and conditioning is what we do. That's what people do. They go there and they strength train. But the movement patterns, the language, a lot of the body mechanics, timing, a lot of the really kind of nuanced details that you will not find very many places, and some that you will not find anywhere else, transfer absolutely seamlessly to fighting, grappling, kickboxing, MMA, and a lot of it is that excellent movement pattern and excellent martial pattern are the same. So the other thing is it's not such a weight-focused program that you're not developing the main aptitudes for something like grappling. You could take the absolute strongest person in the world, and they would be a fucking handful for anybody. But when you peel that first layer of the onion back and that strength starts to go out the window, and the conditioning deficiencies, the mobility deficiencies, all that kind of stuff starts showing up, then you start realizing why other things had to be addressed. I think it's phenomenal for that type of stuff. We've had a lot of people do really well in fight sports using basically our primary program with just a tiny bit of tweaks. And I mean, it was many years ago now, and that was one of the secondary questions is the last time I competed in a grappling tournament was 2008. But even prior to that, before we really know what we knew now, and I mean, minus a million details, I mean, in the last 12 years or whatever, we've done a lot. And even then, all of our people out there were well prepared for that type of stuff. So I believe when it comes to training for an event or training for a measuring stick or something like that, you have to look at what you're not doing just as much as what you are doing. And if you're doing a ton of weightlifting, if you're doing a ton of powery stuff and whatever type of whatever, but you're not skinning each cat, something like fighting will find it. Something like grappling will find it. So a thorough but systematic program that actually knows what it's doing and is building someone for that type of combat application is rare. And ours is good. Thank you, Jim. A former meathead. No, you're not. You're a thinker, man. Thank you. So glad to hear the mace helped. Let's talk about maces for a minute then. Then we'll move on to the rest of the questions and a couple other little things. We got quite a surge of mace sales the last month or more. A lot of people were sold out of fitness gear, and we also had Jocko had put the mace on his Instagram page. So between those two things, we've been moving a lot of maces. It's been an interesting challenge, and it's been a lot of hustle, but it's worth it. The maces are beautiful. We're it is totally bizarre to even think about. We're just over 1,200 maces sold since the mid 2017. I thought we were going to sell 40 or 50, and this was going to be kind of a novelty for the people that knew, and that would be it. But all I can say is apparently at some level the cream does rise to the top, because that mace is phenomenal. Our instruction with it is second to none, and people are starting to notice, and we appreciate that. Each of those maces is handmade in Rochester, New York. I have touched each of those maces, picking them up from the factory, bringing them to our place, spray painting them. The first 500 or 600 I etched like a fucking toddler that had been huffing glue, but I etched the first 500 or 600 maces. Heather has done the ones after that. Every single mace there is cared for and put in your hands and is expected to last a lifetime. And that's a dead art. There is a lot of people making a lot of great stuff, and we applaud them, because in general it is tedious and unsatisfying, but it's rewarding, because look at these tools, and they're only getting better all the time. So thank you so much for jumping in, taking the risk with a mace. And if there's a jump off point on our YouTube, it's the definitive Mace 360 tutorial. I'll refilm it soon. And then we put up our mace lifting for strength training video that previously we were charging for on Vimeo. We put that up for free on YouTube. Go watch that. If you're a strength trainer and you have not watched that video, I can say that you're missing things. The angles that the mace enables us to get at, the corners that the mace enables us to light that no one had ever addressed before, are shocking. Both the strength increases and the recovery pieces that we've had happen with the mace is just phenomenal. When someone gets a hold of this thing for real, it's gonna be interesting. We're working with a baseball player right now, and his goal is throwing 103, and I think he's gonna get there. He's been putting pounds on his primary lifts every week, increases on his primary lifts every week, basically just incorporating heavy, fast mace shovels, properly done kettlebell swings, a couple other little things, and so if he hits that, we'll start to get some notice. Oh, thank you. You got one of the early ones. Good. Well, I apologize for the etching, but I'm glad the mace is holding up. Yeah, good question, Evan. You somewhat know the answer to it. Yeah, I mean, there's exceptions to the rule, of course, but law enforcement, fire, military, fitness tests are ridiculous. They're mind over matter in a way, but not even necessarily in the right way. I know an awful lot of people that can gut out a lumbery 6-mile run that would go code black in 8 seconds if someone who knew how to fight grabbed a hold of them. So, in my opinion, minimal effective dose for someone who's going to be tasked with standing up immediately, moving as fast as they can, possibly into a physical altercation, needs to train things that replicate that. Baseline fitness tests, I understand you need to get a baseline somewhere, but after that, there's a million details that those organizations are not covering, and that's why people come see us. But yeah, outdated is understatement. How would I restructure it? Yeah, they got to earn it. Thank you. Which mace weight is the most versatile? That's an interesting question. There's no one answer for that. There should be, but there isn't. The mace is sneaky. It's way more challenging than people give it credit for until they try it. We've had a lot of really giant dudes with shitty midline stability that have done nothing except for deadlift and belts their whole lives come in and get tacoed by an 8-kilogram mace. We've had people that are really, really small that have done a lot of really good training and have excellent midline stability and phenomenal overhead mobility, and they swing 12, 14, 16 kilogram maces like it's nothing. And then it corresponds. It translates to their dips and pull-ups and their presses and their bench press and everything like that. So one of the things that we do with the maces is we diagnose position, and then we start adding accessories. It isn't always a mace accessory. I mean, the mace is a tool in a toolbox. But for versatility, if you are a normal size person, relatively fit, relatively strong, either an 8 or 10 kilogram mace will get you quite a ways. A 12 kilogram mace is usually a decent choice, but will be limiting for a few things at first. I mean, there's things that I don't do with a 12 kilogram mace, and a 14 or a 16 would be need based. once you've really optimized everything with the lighter weights. So usually a 10 kilogram mace is a great choice. If you're just getting into training, if you know that your shoulders are an issue, if you know that your midline stability is an issue, get an 8 kilogram mace. I use an 8 or a 10 kilogram mace more than any other size. Not that I'm some fucking universal benchmark, but just to give you an impression. Yeah, Gypsy, I agree, man. There's maces in there I don't even want to touch. They look so great. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jay. Great questions tonight. Nice comments, guys. Thank you. Come on. That's the best. That's the best. Well, we could end right there. The comment says, your training enabled me to skate with my sons today. That's it, man. Tips for beginners learning to use dynamic movements, maces, kettlebells, things like that. Yeah, that's a great question. Power is earned. Usually people, if they haven't done any training, are not just going to really, really excel at performing power movements. There's details to that stuff. A lot of people are sneakily powerful, but just like everything else, there's got to be details in that thing. So organize your lifts, understand what's doing why and what's moving what. And make sure that you're bracing and not simply just breathing anytime you want. Stability and power are on the same side of the coin. If you're wiggly and not centered and not braced, you're only going to be just so powerful. So when you're incorporating those movements in, keep the rep schemes low, keep the output vicious. Once you've established that you can make a strong hinge, once you've established that you can get yourself off the ground as hard and fast as you can, do it as hard and fast as you can. Soft is sketchy, and if you're trying to actually develop and improve power, dynamic movements, things like that, you have to address it accordingly. You have to address it violently. There's no such thing as passive power. Musician, artist, influencers, and ideology. I don't exactly know what that means. If that's things I like, a ton of stuff. Hardcore music has been in my life since I was young, and I still love it. I listen to things that resonate with me. If it was a top 40 pop song and I thought it was excellent and the lyrics were great, I would listen to it. I think I'm safe, and I don't think that's going to happen. But Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds is some of my favorite music for many, many years. Learning a lot of new things about Spotify lately. Who knew? It was really easy to use, and there's a ton of great stuff on there. I found an old band from Buffalo called Zero Tolerance on there that I did not know was on there, and that was really fun. Listening to that stuff, throwing back to that stuff is great for me. But we have a playlist. We have a playlist on Spotify. Sorry, that's a good segue into that. If you go to Spotify, I don't know how to find it. Someone on here does. There's a playlist of everything that we play at the gym. Charlie says fasting. I don't know, not for me. I don't really do that. I know people that do and they love it. If I need to be leaner for something, I can be and I will be. I've done it before. I can do it again, but I don't need to be, so I don't. I'm as lean as my body is supposed to be, and it does what it's supposed to do. So for me, I know there's a lot of benefits of fasting. It's just not something I do. If it's something that you do, or someone gets a result that you want and they can tell you exactly how to do it, why not try it? I mean, don't fast for 2 months, but something like that is safe to experiment with as long as you're paying attention. Thanks, Jibs. What are some ways you would advise someone to get their writing out there? I don't know. I'm not an expert in that realm. I tried to go through the conventional channels for Theft of the Age, which is a fiction book that I wrote years ago, and then published the version that's out now in 2016. Tried to go through conventional publishing channels, send out this manuscript and this letter and all this kind of stuff. And I heard back from a couple, and they were nice. One place was interested and seemed like we could probably get somewhere, but it just got really convoluted. It's anyone that's involved in music or art in this type of way is gonna resonate. I imagine it all of a sudden started feeling like, even after the first conversation, the book was not the point, or the message was not the point, or the product was not the point. And so I just kind of stopped that in its tracks. I wouldn't have ended up making them any money anyway, and they would have sold a handful of books, and it would have been fun. But instead, I just pursued it on our own, and we got it done through one of our private projects here, the Mephisto Group. I think it was better. We had complete control over it, and it came out quite exactly how we wanted, thanks to the help of some people here. Jeff, there's the Theft of the Age Volume 2 is being written, and I'm excited for it. And if you enjoyed the first one, you'll enjoy this one. As far as getting it out there, I just did some sneaky stuff. I spent as much time as I could making sure that the graphics were sharp for Theft of the Age, and then more recently for War of Attrition, and then we just snuck them out there anywhere we could. Much more recently, Bridge 9 is selling both books. That's really cool. I've meant to link that again in our story recently, and had just simply forgotten, so I'll do that again. But this is also a good sounding board. If anyone out there knows the writing world and has a better answer for him as to how do you get your writing out there, please answer it separately, and also answer it for us. In my opinion, Theft of the Age is quite unsung. We sold a good amount of copies of it, but it's a decent book, and I believe it has a lot more legs than it got. So I don't know enough about that stuff either, and I probably should, since it's something that I do. Okay, that's the last of the actual. Oh no, would I rather vacation in Hawaii or Alaska? If I start thinking about vacations right now, it's all going to go right down the tubes. You follow MMA, favorite fighters? Yeah, I love watching fighting. I've been watching fighting since UFC 1. So many favorite fighters. It would be way harder for me to pick a favorite than I would to single out people that I don't like. I have so much respect for anyone that walks that path. I mean, even having competed just a little bit in fighting and grappling and kickboxing, I mean, it's superhuman. It's supernatural. When you see men and women that can move like that and hit like that and receive punishment like that and stay focused and technical and tactical, it's incredible. It's incredible. I know exactly how much all that stuff hurts, and that is tough. So I'm a huge fan of fighting, and it's something that I've loved. I've trained various martial arts since before 1999, and it's something that I still do every single day. I drill something in the martial movement category every single day of my life, whether it be on the bag, whether it be rolling on the ground, tumbling, whether it be knife draws, pistol draws, whatever. I'm not exceptional at any of it, but I've done it an awful lot, and I know that I can do it if I need to. Great question. So that's it. If nobody has anything else. Thanks for your time. So we had some other questions, and then we had one or two other larger topics that we'll run through, I believe, this Thursday, if this stuff is helpful. We've been getting a lot of technical questions about training details, so I think on Thursday I may try and do one of these from the gym and line it up so that I can try and go over a couple of things that we may not be able to go over sitting in my apartment. The website to get a mace, well, I mean, yeah, it's wolfbrigade.com. Anywhere on this Instagram, you can find a link to get to pretty much anything that we make or do. Thank you for listening, and then thank you for the feedback yesterday that these are valuable. We weren't being self-deprecating. We just don't want to talk if nobody's listening. There's a lot of people talking right now, and we understand how overwhelming that can be. I'll leave you with something I wrote a handful of years ago at this point that's relevance and value seems to have magnified. It's a Sunday night. I am in Rochester, New York. I don't care where you are. It doesn't matter. Most matters of the moment are fleeting when compared to figuring out what matters most. If you've stumbled across us and stayed, there is unrest in you. There is questioning. There's a spark of dissent. Something is brewing. Something has hit a nerve, likely with good reason, and now you live determined to stand for or against, as you should, or concede, and sit on your hands with your head down, like you're supposed to. Standing won't look the same for everyone and doesn't need to, but it always looks different than sitting. Real standing draws risk, but the greatest peril lies in not doing anything at all, losing yourself to a world of thoughtless, societally engineered and preferred, physically and mentally sedentary, voluntary mediocrity. On a cold, forgettable night in Rochester, New York, I would rather die right now standing on my own terms than let anyone kill me slowly sitting on theirs.